Hello everyone. Today we will be discussing about the IP address and MAC address around how to basically get the IP address and MAC address for a given device. So I will just be sharing my screen and then from there we'll take it. I hope my screen is visible. So basically somebody might ask us like what is the IP address of our laptop, for example. So in that case, what we can do is we can go to the command prompt and then we just type ipconfig all. So basically, if I just open the command prompt, which is this one, and then if I just do ipconfig hyphen hyphen help, I will make the screen bit bigger. Ipconfig hyphen hyphen help, so it can tell me which all parameters I can provide to this command. So if I type ipconfig slash all, then it is going to give me all the details about the IP address and MAC addresses. So now we will talk about all the terms which we see in the output of this command to understand what each term means. And discussing these different terminologies, we we will have better understanding of how these terms are used as part of computer networks. Okay, so the very first thing is uh, maybe we do not need to go through all the details as we can see in the output of this command, but I will go through the important terms here. Okay, so basically when we type this command ipconfig hyphen all, sorry, ipconfig slash all, then it will going to provide me some details about the Windows IP configuration where we can see the host name and then a few other parameters under the IP, Windows IP configuration. But then it will tell me like this is the so in previous videos we discussed about the network interface card and how the MAC address is related to or associated with each network interface card. So similar to that, what when we type this command, so in the output we will see all the different network interface cards which we have in our machine. So like we can see here Wi-Fi. So this is about the Wi-Fi network interface card. Then we have the Bluetooth. So from there we can get the details of the Bluetooth network interface card. And likewise, if you have the Ethernet port uh, in your laptop, then you are going to get the details of the Ethernet network interface card. So now looking at this, we can see that each network interface card has a unique MAC address which cannot be changed, right? So that MAC address we can see looking at the physical address for each network interface card. So for example, if we look at this Wi-Fi uh, details from the output of ipconfig command, then we know that physical address is something like this. So this is the MAC address for this Wi-Fi. Likewise, for the Bluetooth one, we can see it shows the physical address like this one, which is again, as we discussed in the previous lecture about my MAC addresses. So it contains 6 pairs of digits and hexadecimal combinations separated by hyphen in this case, right? So this is the physical address for each network interface card. So whenever someone is asking like can you give me the MAC address of your machine, or your network interface card, Ethernet network interface card, or Bluetooth one, or the Wi-Fi one? And you can then type this command in the command prompt, get the output, and then you can let everyone know like this is my MAC address, right? Then the other parameters are, so let's go through it one by one. So the next one is, I have some notes here. So physical address. So this is the MAC address we have just gone through, right? Then we have another parameter called DHCP enabled, right? So if we go back to the uh, Wi-Fi details, so we can see we have the DHCP enabled, which is a Boolean flag, true or false. So what it means is that DHCP enabled means whether the IP address for our laptop or for our device is provided by uh, like it's a dynamic, and it is provided by some service running somewhere, right? So DHCP stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. And basically what happens is, so if we look at this picture, right? So here, suppose we have a laptop and it is connected to via Wi-Fi to to the router, right? So this is generally the home setup, right? So we have the internet, and then we have the router based somewhere in the house, and then the laptop is connected via Wi-Fi uh, to this router, and then we are able to use internet, right? So basically, this DHCP is a kind of program which is running in the router, and then whenever we connect our machine, our laptop via Wi-Fi, let's say, to this router, then this router DHCP program is going to assign an IP address to this laptop. So looking at this output, we can see that this Wi-Fi is DHCP enabled. So this network interface card is DHCP enabled. And then we are going to get the IP address from this. So it's going to be the dynamic, right? So the next one comes in. So basically, let's go to one more item. So DHCP enabled yes means router automatically assigns the IP address. And if it's no, then you have manually set a fixed IP address yourself. That is what it is. So in most of the cases, generally home networks always have this option as yes. And then wherever it makes more sense to never change the IP address or have the static IP, in those cases like printers. So we have this option enabled as no, DHCP enabled no, right? So that we can have a fixed or a static IP address. So the next thing comes up is auto configuration enabled. So again, if we go back to the command output, so the next parameter which is related to it is auto configuration enabled. So this is again a Boolean flag similar to DHCP enabled, and what it means is that whenever, now it could happen that our laptop is not able to connect to the router, right? And then we know that the router is running a DHCP program which is assigning us a dynamic IP address. So if our laptop is basically not able to connect to the router, then it means that we will not be able to get the IP address, dynamic IP address. So in that case, this by this mechanism of automatic private IP addressing, which in short is called a pipa. So we will be getting a, alternative IP address by using this APIPA, right? Mechanism. So we can see from the screenshot here that normal situation is laptop connects to the router and we get this IP address. But then if this mechanism fails, we are not able to connect to the router to the laptop, then we if this configuration is enabled, then laptop is going to assign or get an IP of this, right? So APIPA address sign that something is wrong. So with with this IP address, we can still communicate with other devices on the same local network, but we cannot access the internet. So what does it mean is that usually when we are connected to the router, as we see on this picture, so we are able to connect to the internet by this router, right? But if we are not able to connect to the router, then it means that we are not getting the dynamic IP address and we got a pipa address, and then we will not be able to connect to the internet because we are not connected to the router. So that's what that mean is. So far what we have covered is by using this ipconfig command, we can get more details about the each network interface card which our machine supports. And then for each network interface card, what is the physical address or MAC address, then whether DHCP is enabled or not, and auto configuration is enabled or not, right? So the next thing is IPv4 address. So IPv4 address we discussed in first video in this computer network series what it is, right? So it is nothing but uh, IP address. So IP address can be of IPv4 address type or it can be IPv6 address type, right? So IPv4 is the like what to say 32-bit address. But when we need a bigger, so basically when all the I so basically IPv4 address is 32-bit address, right? And then we know that there can be maximum 255 into 255 into 255 into 2, oh sorry, 256 into 256 into 256 into 256. So these are the total IPv4 addresses we can get, right? So once we exceeds this range, then we cannot have more IPv4 addresses. So then IPv6 address comes in play because that is 128-bit address and it covers more devices and all. But essentially, we get the IP address of our machine by running this command, right? Then comes subnet mask. So subnet mask in this case is 255.255.255.0, right? So what it means is that basically the subnet mask is again for octets, right? So for each octet, the maximum is 255 value here in the subnet mask. So looking at this, we know, so basically in the subnet mask, if it's a 0, then it means it's the device. Uh, so so basically it's the device address which can change. And then the first three octets tell me the network. So if I go to the notes here, subnet mask, right? So basically, if my IP address is 192.168.1.10 and the subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, then it means that this 255 is the network part. So wherever 0 means the device part. So what we are saying is in this network where my IP address is 192.168.1.10, so there can be other devices on the same network, but the network is 192.168.1. So that is my network. So then the last octet can have different values ranging from 0 to 255, but this is going to be fixed. The first three octets are going to be fixed. So what we are saying is if my subnet mask is 255.255.255.0, then what the maximum devices we can have in a network is 254. I mean the last, based on the last zero in the subnet mask. So it's for smaller networks like home networks or office networks. But if my subnet mask is 255.255.0.0, then we can have more number of devices, right? Because now there are two zeros. So it means the devices can have more range, right? So there can be more devices because now the network part is just two octet. In the first part where the subnet mask was 255.255.255.0, so there the network part was three octets. So we had lesser number of devices. And now we have shrinked the network part. So now we have 255.255. So in that case, my devices will be more because the network part is now less. Likewise, in the large network, the subnet is 255.0.0.0. It means that now my three octets are covering more devices. As we can see here, 16 million devices when the subnet mask is 255.0.0.0. So that's what uh, subnet mask. So looking at the subnet mask, we can tell how big my network can be, right? Is so what we have covered here is so far MAC address, DHCP enabled Boolean flag, auto configuration Boolean flag, IPv4 or IPv6 address, for example, then subnet mask, then lease obtained and lease expires. So these are again the important terms. So what it means is if I go back to lease obtained and lease expiry. So basically we have just known that usually in the home network setup, we have devices, for example, a laptop, and then we have the router. Router talks to the internet, and our laptop connects to the router via Wi-Fi. So then a router is assigning us an IP address, dynamic IP address, and then so that dynamic IP address is not a permanent one. So next, maybe it could happen that we disconnected our laptop to the router. We disabled the Wi-Fi. So now our laptop is no more connected to the router. And then we connected again, right? After half an hour or something. So in that case, a router is going to assign a new dynamic IP address to the laptop. But if my laptop is running for more than, let's say, 24 hours, so in that case, what will happen is after 24 hours, after the lease gets expired, so router is going to assign me a different or maybe this again the same IP address. So every time I get the dynamic address IP address from DHCP, so it has a expiry, how long it will be, right? How long that IP address will be valid for. So usually it's 24 hours, right, on the home network, or it can be 7 days as well, up to. On the public Wi-Fi's, lease is usually 1 to 2 hours to free up address quickly. So now we have covered lease obtained and lease expiry. Now comes the default gateway, right? So default gateway is actually, if we look at this one, so default gateway is, in this case, we can say a router. What is the, so this is the IP address of the router. So which connects our devices to the internet, right? So it means that every time from our laptop, when we are connected to the router and we search for www.google.com, so basically the request will go to the router. So this is the gateway. And then the router will get the data corresponding to what we are looking for and then give it back to us. So it's the IP address of the router. Then comes DHCP server. So DHCP server is nothing but like, where is my DHCP running? On which machine? So DHCP, as we discussed earlier, is a mechanism or a protocol by which we or the laptops get the IP addresses, dynamic IP addresses. So then DHCP server means where is this protocol or where is this software program running, right? So in this case, we can see that it is again the same address as the router. So it means that a router is running the DHCP program, and that program is giving us the dynamic IP address. Then one of the important parameters or output in this command is DNS servers. So DNS servers is nothing but a domain name server. Every time we type a command or we type a website in the URL of the browser, then ultimately it has to be converted to an IP address, right? So that the data can be requested from that machine and then things like that. So so basically in this case, we are saying that my DNS server is 192.168.1.1. So again, router is acting as a DNS server as well here. So every time we are typing a URL in the browser of the laptop, then this DNS, so router is going to ask the DNS program to give me the IP address corresponding to that URL. And that's how it will then reach out to that particular IP address and get the data. So again, domain names are system. It is the phone book of the internet. When you type google.com in your browser, your laptop doesn't know what IP address that is. It asks the DNS server to translate the name into an IP address. So overall, what we have covered is how to find an IP address or MAC addresses of different network interface cards in our machine, and then how to understand what each term in that response means is. So we have the physical address mapping to MAC address, DHCP enabled, auto configuration enabled, IPv4 address, subnet mask, lease obtained, lease expires, default gateway, DHCP server, and DNS server. So that's it for now. Thank you.